I don't know, man. Like I never feel like I've got it figured out. That's number one. And I think the people like I do feel that nobody feels like they have it figured out, and the people that say that they do are either lying or not doing anything worth doing. you know?
Hello, folks, and welcome to Author Adjacent, a show about the journey from hobbyist writer to professional author. I'm your host, Michael Vadney, and today I am sitting with Nicholas W. Fuller, author of The Shattered, a Sanguine Stars novella, and co-host of the Nerdy Nebula podcast. Welcome to the show, Nicholas.
Hey, how you doing, Michael?
Doing great. I'm glad we could get you on here. We talked about this a while ago, and I've been around the peripheral of like your online community and talks for a while, so I'm glad we could finally do this. Especially as like I've been watching like your podcast for a while, so this is a nice thing for me. So thank you for
No.
coming on to the show.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to chat with you tonight.
Appreciate that. So for this episode, we're just going to be digging a little bit into yourself, your journey, how you got to where you got today, and then we're going to have you again on next week, where we're going to be digging more into serialized storytelling, which we may dig into a little bit here, but we'll focus a lot on that next week.
Sounds good. Sounds real good. I'm excited for both. Yeah.
Good. The first thing that I did want to ask you actually is because I know you as a podcaster first, and then now you've actually been writing for a long time. But what inspired you to start writing and podcasting, and how did you decide to combine those all into a single thing?
So the writing origin story is long, right? I
I got the
remember.
time.
Okay, good, good, good. I remember way back in the fifth grade, we had an opportunity to have like free reading in class, which was awesome. You can just pick what you want to read and just spend, some time reading it, and you're good to go. But I convinced my teacher to let me do free writing instead, and I was like, "Cool, I'm going to write a novel." And it was my first attempt at like a sci-fi novel with an alien race based on my neighbor's basset hound dogs. That work remains incomplete, but it's I mean the bug was there. My mom was also always a big reader. She read a lot of like thrillers, lots of Tom Clancy on the shelves, that sort of thing, like Clive Cussler too. Um, so I think the bug was always there for reading and writing. But then kind of, you know, different times I would kind of take a little bit of a swing at it and then be like, it was specifically in my early 20s. I wrote like I did write a novel, but it's a trunk book, and yeah, just needed to do something else and needed to uh have a real job, you know. So was focusing on the real job for a long time. Ended up like initially I was interested in video game development, but ended up kind of changing that skill set into website development and doing that like full time for many years. But what really kind of got me back into reading and writing was actually my daughter being born. She's 4.5 now, but when she was a tiny baby, she like demanded to be held all the time. So I'd been still reading here and there, but I really started reading a lot because I would just hold her in one arm and read with a Kindle in the other, and it wasn't disruptive enough for her that I could still like rock her to sleep like this. Um, it was good times. And that got me reading a lot more, and then I started getting the writing bug a lot more. Picked up a novel idea that I'd been working on like years prior, which is still a work in development because I was having trouble figuring out how to make it work. But it's sort of like a travel log of like an Amish dude and a sci-fi space venture in the future. Yeah, it's wild. But I think I have an idea on how to make that work, but that's still like a back burner project. But so well, when I wrote the first book that I'd mentioned about before, it was a very isolating experience, right? I felt alone. I mean, like writing usually is a kind of a solitary practice, but in that instance, I just felt very alone, and it wasn't super fun all the time. Um, and like when I started reading more and decided I wanted to take another crack at writing, I wanted to do it different. So the first thing I did was I developed an in-person writing group. Um, I got on my local subreddit and was like, "Hey, I'm checking out these like Brandon Sanderson lectures and stuff on YouTube. And anyone want to get together and discuss them?" And a couple other people were like, "Yeah, let's do that." And then, that turned into a thing that's been going on for more than 3 years now. Um, yeah, so that's been really nice. And then I can't say exactly I wish I had like more of a story of like what started the YouTube, and because I just can't remember what made me go like this is a good idea, you know. But I think it was kind of like watching like a little bit of like Daniel B. Green and some others, and kind of a just sort of feeling like I could probably do some of that, and it might even be kind of fun, you know, and it would be a good way to kind of get my name out there and that sort of thing, and get people to kind of see me. And then I think I just decided interviews would be fun, and I was amazed when I was starting to do interviews. I was like asking people that I thought who I don't know if they'll ever want to talk to me, like Travis Baldry and Mary Robinette Kowal, who I felt were like, way above anything that I was, at the time. But they were like, sure, we'll chat. And I was like, this is amazing. So, and it just never stopped and it continued to be fun. Like, I mean, over the years of doing it, I've talked with, of course, those two, which was amazing, but also like a woman named Ness Brown, who was a astrobiologist. And we just started talking about where are the aliens, and like talked to people from Greece and the UK and Egypt, and of course a number of Australians, and made friends with people like Adrian, our mutual friend. And like it's just been the coolest way to get to know people and build community and kind of gain some exposure. But like that's almost secondary. It's more about just like again, getting to know people and building community, and finding connection in this crazy writing process that again can be so isolating. And but instead now it's like I've built friendships that I know lasting already like years. It's been delightful.
Man, that whole thing was beautiful. Like every time you were saying a new line, I'm like, yeah, I got something to say that. Yeah, I got something to say to that.
Sorry,
Like,
sorry, sorry.
one, like, no, no, no. I love that. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were just such on a roll. That was a really good answer. Um, First, I love how much your story actually really reflects my own, and a
Yeah.
lot of the same inspirations between like Brandon Sanderson's lectures,
Mm,
Daniel Green's show, and everything like that. Like a lot of those things have been very inspirational and have taught me a lot about writing and podcasting, and just the the setting up of a platform and
mm,
creating that network of people so you're not so isolated in the writing process, because you're
right.
right, it can be very crushing to do it all by yourself. And the fact that you did it once entirely that way and still decided to come back, hats off to you. Thank you for returning to the fold.
Yeah. Yeah, crushing is a good word for it, but yeah, I mean, it like I said, it's a trunk book, but I was proud to complete it, and I'm still like proud of what I
You
wrote.
should
It's
be.
just not at all like, um it was like a historical fiction coming of age that I wrote in like my early 20s, and
Mhm.
it was also kind of preachy.
Mm.
So like I'm like this is more that was a book that I wrote for me. Let's set that aside, let it be a book for me, and let's write books that I want for an audience in the future. Let's think about them a little bit as I'm writing in the future.
You should still be proud of that though, because
Yeah.
there are so few people that set out to write a book and then finish it. There's
Yeah.
literally millions of people who try multiple times and then never get to that finish line. So anybody who does get there and does finally get the end, you should be proud of that at the very least, because it's a huge effort on your part and a time
Yeah.
commitment. It's a lot. You sacrifice a
Right.
lot to make that happen.
Right. Right. Thank you. And agreed. And also, I mean, we're both fans of those Brandon Sanderson lectures. I mean, that's a point that he
Yeah.
makes in those lectures, right? Is that the biggest gap between people that want to write a book and people that are super successful like him is people that finish a book. Every time I talk to like a friend that's just starting writing, I'm like, listen, your job right now is not write a good book. Your job is finish writing a book, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, just get the words on the page. Like, I tell people all the time, you just have to make it exist, because
Yeah.
once it exists, you can make it better. But
Yes.
as long as
Yes.
it's up here, it remains nebulous and perfect. But that
Well
that
said.
that transfer to the page is always really hard, and that's why we
Mm-hmm.
do like a million
That,
drafts. But
yeah. Right. Right.
it happens.
Right.
Uh, so the next question I wanted to ask you, in my opinion, is the most important question that I always ask.
Ooh,
Is
ooh, ooh.
yes, at what point did you feel like an author? And if you haven't yet, what would it take for you to feel that? To feel like you've achieved that title?
Yeah, interesting question. In some ways, I feel like an author, yes. Like if I'm talking with other writing friends, then I could say that I'm an author, and I know that they're gonna be okay with it. I do think that I guess the one thing that I think feels like an author is holding the book, you know? Like holding the print book is kind of super special. And then also like going through the process of the print book, like becoming a print book and doing like interior design with our mutual friend Adrian, who like made it absolutely beautiful with things like these chapter headings. Like it was right, right? Like it was super cool, and that was one of, like, 2 moments in the creating of this where I got, like, a little weepy because I was like, "Oh my god, it's really happening," you know? Yeah. So, I think that's the thing. I think holding an actual book that's actually my story and, like, that's pretty cool. Although another thing was actually getting a really, really awesome review from someone that I respect in the community. That was that was, amazing, and, made me feel like, "Okay, I've made it," you know? And even it, like, there's other people that, like, it might not land for it, and that's fine, and I get it, like, there's no story that works for everyone, right? Um, but it worked for that guy, and I'm like, "It yes," you know? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that is absolutely awesome. And again, congratulations on the release because it's still pretty recent that that's been out, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it feels very, very recent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's July 10th was the ebook, and I think like September was the print. So yeah, it's been pretty recent, and it's still like exclusively available on my website, nicholaswfuller.com, if you want to go check it
We'll have links in the comments below if you really want to like just scroll down a little bit. It's right there, guys. Click on it. Get it.
out.
I got
Nice.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you seem to feel like a little different about this book compared to the earlier one that you wrote before that you consider your trunk novel. Does this feel more real to you now because you're putting it out into the public?
Probably yes, well, yeah, and because there's again, like when I did it before, I didn't know what I was doing whatsoever, and like this time, I have some clue of some things to do right, and I don't always do everything like even that I think what this would be a good thing to do. I'm like, well, if I have the time, you know what I mean. I am way far off from doing everything right, but I'm doing a few things, and like I've got like that nice review from Pippin on FanFi Addict, and like that's the one that I'm like hanging my hat on, man. Like so that yeah, that sort of thing just makes it feel more real, more out there, more accepted.
Oh, that is really awesome. And you mentioned earlier that you have like a writing group that you've been meeting with for over 3 years at this point.
Yeah,
I absolutely love writing groups. There's nothing better than getting that like immediate feedback um, to your
yeah,
work, especially on like a weekly or biweekly basis, where you can just put it out there and excuse me, and here this is what people responded well to and this is what they didn't and this is
right.
what I can work on in that
Mhm.
just really quick feedback loop.
Yeah.
How hasn't been working with them? Is that something that you developed your latest book with, or is it more of a like a writing support group?
Yeah, great question. So it's interesting because like I said, like when I first like said, let's do this, it was like, let's sort of talk about writing, let's look at these lectures, that sort of thing. But it very quickly got into like a critique group, and we were reading each other's work and critiquing it. And which has been excellent, and they've made me better writer, and it's definitely helped me kind of identify strengths and weaknesses. And so like now when I go into like an edit, I know, all right, I'm not always good about like describing my setting. I need to make sure that I like take some time and improve that as I'm doing an edit. I'm not always good about including enough body beats within dialogue. I can just have like dialogue without enough in between. And sometimes I'm not, I need to think about like interiority while I'm doing the edit, and do I have enough interiority? So those are so helpful to identify that I don't think I would have kind of identified those on my own, but seeing that in the critique over and over is like, okay, these are things that now I know I can go do. So that's been really helpful. The one thing that's been kind of uh, interesting to sort of learn over time is like we all have different tastes, and I really like value their input, but it's also there are some times where I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but like, no. I'm gonna do what I wanted to do anyway because I know that my ideal reader is actually gonna really like this dumb thing that I want to do, like
Yeah.
something like that.
Sometimes you're writing a different story than what they want to read. And you're going to
Yes.
run into that with like feedback groups.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's been really interesting to kind of learn again, like as we've been doing this over a while and like have an understanding of it. But it's like, yeah, I mean, one guy in particular, I'm like, listen, I love your line edits. So like I need your help on some of this stuff, And like especially if I write a short and I really want to make it nice and tight, like he's just the goat, So super
Yeah.
helpful that way.
No, that makes sense. Is there anything in particular that they gave you feedback on that you realized, "Oh, I'm actually good at this because of the things that they were telling you?"
I think that in general, like dialogue is a strength, and it always feels kind of natural and easy. I wrote one short where there was literally like one line that wasn't dialogue. The rest was entirely dialogue with not even tags. That was kind of fun just to do as a challenge. But um, so there's that, and then I also feel like my action scenes are pretty strong, so that's fun. That's good. But yeah, I mean, again, it's helpful to know the weaknesses and the strengths because then you can play into the strengths and try to like either account for the weaknesses or just try to avoid them.
No, that makes sense. And having read Shattered, I will agree. The dialogue and the action are like definitely high points. I
Nice.
also like the world building that you have in there. I think is very interesting. Uh, I don't think it's too spoilerly to say this, and if it is, tell me. I will cut this from the video. But I just remember there's just the one part where I can't remember his name, 893 or something like that.
Oh
Uh, where the big guy goes, give yourself a name. And I'm just like, oh, I love that part. That's
yeah,
cool.
yes,
I
yes,
just
yes,
really
yes.
like the ending of that chapter. That was really
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, that was a cool one, and it's been cool to see the reaction to that too. Like, I love the way it's interesting the different things that'll hit with different people, though.
Hmm.
Like, but that is one thing that does hit with a lot of folks, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't see like that coming," and that sort of it tells you a lot about sort of that group and sort of the world. And I was like,
Yes.
"Yeah, yeah,"
Yeah, it's just like a very tight way to cram a lot of world building without overwhelming.
yeah,
Because just because this one nugget is true, it implies so much of this other stuff. And that was
right.
just really exciting to see it, and just my brain just whoa as I finish that chapter, and then I move on and I'm back to Poe.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's so cool to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that was probably like one of my favorite parts.
Nice,
That and the train scene was really cool. But you'll
nice.
have to read the book, people, if you want to know what I'm talking about there.
Yep, yep, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, too much of the train would probably be too spoilery, but that was a fun one to write for sure, and a fun one to
Oh,
kind
I
of
bet.
go back to and work with a little bit, and yeah, in the yeah, I would love to say more, but it would be too spoilery, so
I
but yeah,
know it's so hard to like want to talk about books, especially when like everybody who is having the discussion has read it, and it's
yeah.
like I want to say something, but it will ruin it for the people who haven't gotten there yet.
Right, right, right,
We'll
right,
figure it
right.
out. So catch
Yeah.
up, people, so that we can talk about
Right,
this.
yeah, come on. Everyone go read it so we can have a nice spoiler complete conversation. No, yeah.
Exactly. Let's catch up. But you've been writing for a long time, and
Yeah,
you've recently made this big publishing push with the Sanguine Star series.
yeah.
How has your creative process changed over time?
Boy, I remember writing that trunk book again in, like, my early 20s, and I'm pushing 40 now, so it's been a hot minute. But, like, I didn't have any deadline at all, and I it was again, I think because it was kind of isolating, sometimes it was like pulling teeth, but I would put on, like, Lord of the Rings in the background. That was the extended editions just playing in the background, and just kind of bang away and work and, like, try to kind of figure it out. But, um yeah, I've always been an outliner. Um, I think that works for me, but one thing that has changed over time is recognizing that I need a little bit of room to play with also. That story that I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, that was this sort of like travel log of this Amish person sci-fi universe. That one I like initially over outlined to the point where it wasn't any fun at all, because like I had already determined everything that I wanted to happen in the scene completely, and like then it made it the process of writing the scene not fun, because I don't know, it just somehow that took a lot of the fun out of it. But so now, like having I've heard from other folks that like they like to have kind of guideposts or flagpoles that they sort of go towards, but then they give themselves room in between, and I really like that concept. So that's one thing. The other thing that's been really interesting to kind of discover, now that I'm like serializing my work on my Patreon for, so Shattered is a prelude novella that can either be read as a book 0.5 or a book 1.5 in a planned trilogy. I am serializing the first book in the planned trilogy on my Patreon, and I soon will start posting it on royalroad.com also. But as I'm putting up a chapter like every week, and I'm kind of like I've got the whole draft of the book done, but I'm doing edits and I'm posting it every week. Having that deadline is actually really helpful for me. And I like it does kind of stress me out a little bit, so there's that aspect, but I also kind of need it to really like to not to do the work because I was doing the work before, but to like just be consistent about it and to not make excuses and to like put it out there. Because I think if it wasn't for that, I probably would keep going like, I can tweak this thing or tweak that thing, or like, oh, I just thought about this thing, or like, oh, maybe even I don't even want to put book one out until like I finish all three, and that way I can go back and make edits to book one to foreshadow things, which is kind of a cool idea, but also like, no, like I don't want to wait that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we're twins from like different parents or something, because everything you're saying, I'm like, yeah, me too, buddy. Me too.
Yeah.
I call it signposting is what I like to call it, because I also like to outline, but if I know every little thing that's going to happen, it is boring to write. But it's
Right.
nice to like discovery write your characters. Like that's
Yeah,
that's
oh,
where I
yeah.
get it in there, is discovery writing my characters' personalities.
Yes,
It does
yes.
make for a lot of drafts though.
Right, right. Oh, man, yes, we're twinning. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many times where I'm like, "Okay, let me, like, I need to figure out this character," and, like, that part wasn't right." That is something too that my critique group has been really helpful with, is, particularly, like, there was one character I had in the story that I'm serializing that was sort of like the z initially, she was kind of like the woman there that's just to, like, be, like, a mirror for Poe, the main character, and, like, and be like, "Wow, you're awesome." And, like, the 2 women in my writing group were like, let's give her more personality." And I'm like, you're right. And, yeah, so she's much more interesting and well-rounded now than she was when I was very first writing it, and that feedback has been really good, but that took kind of some work. I was just struggling with another chapter too for a little bit, that because I there's, like, a mentor character in the first book, the serialized book, and I initially wrote the whole draft with the mentor character like just this one way, right? But then I was talking with actually my cousin, who is like my ideal reader. He's like he is the person that is the ideal reader, and we were discussing like ideas, right? And we sort of had this idea that like, what if he has a split personality? And like, right, see, he sort of has like this mentor character kind of normal-ish personality, but then another personality that's just way off the rails, and that's been super fun, and I really like that. I think it like adds a lot of uniqueness not only to that character but to the story overall. But having to actually develop and sort of find that character now was a little bit of a stumbling block, but I think I'm finally there and I'm really happy with it.
Have you
Yeah.
ever ran into a situation where either with your writing group or beta readers where a reader locked in on a character's personality before you did, and you
Mm.
learned about the character based on their feedback?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I mean, I think that female character that I was mentioning earlier, like they kind of got there before I did,
Yeah.
but um I think that's the key one right now. But it's interesting too, like again, like that one review, Pippin like said the Kelly Asia's character that since you read it, you know Kelly Asia's
Mm,
too. He
yeah.
said he really liked his arc in that chapter where he's sort of the POV character, and he like compared that character writing to Fonda Lee, and I was like, okay, I'll take it, buddy,
Ooh.
thank you, but right,
That is a good chapter.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
because
you,
that's the only, like, POV chapter we get for him. Everything
yeah,
else is external, and you do learn a lot about him from the other people who
right,
respect him, who don't,
right.
and how they feel about what he does. But then that God, man, that chapter was good. That chapter is just from him, and you learn so much more. And some of the judgments that you hear from the other characters are confirmed, and some of them are, yes, that is true, but also there's this whole other layer wrapping around it. That was a good chapter. Man, now you got me thinking about it again. I need to go read it all over.
Nice. I'll take that. Thank you.
Ah, no worries. I had once my writing group was reading through like my first or second draft, really early stuff, and I was
Mhm.
really struggling with one of my female characters.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then one of the guys in my group, he turned to me and he goes, "Yeah, she's a spider queen." And as soon as he said that, I was like, "All right,
Ah, yeah, yeah.
yes,
Of
that makes
course.
sense."
Right, yeah.
And then everything else got locked in after that. So it's always really nice when someone else can help you discover a part of your story. That's why writing groups are so good. I
Yeah.
can't say enough about them.
Is your writing group in person or is it online?
It was in person. So I was living in Dallas, and now I'm over in Fort Worth, which is only like
Okay, okay.
45 minutes to an hour away,
Yeah, but
depending
enough
on
to be
traffic and stuff.
inconvenient. Right, right.
Yeah, so when I moved here last spring, I no longer see them in person. I still keep in contact with them because they're a great group of people, and I like to check in with them every once in a while.
Yeah.
Writers Anonymous in Dallas, you know who you are, good people. But yeah, I'm very excited to meet up with them again. It's been a while. I want to check up on them and see how they're all doing because I
Nice.
like the stuff that they write, and there's a
Man,
few particular stories. I remember I was talking to one of them a few months ago, and I was like, "You better publish this.
you're
If you
right.
don't traditionally publish it, you better do it yourself because this is awesome."
Yeah. Yeah, 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 in my writing group, it was all in person, but then one of them moved away to Austin, so he's not getting together with us, but
That's hard.
his book his name is J.A. Ross, and, like, watch out for that name. I think that he's got a future. He just needs to, like, get a little bit more stubborn with his querying, you know?
Hmm.
Because he wants to
Yeah.
go traditional, but he also expects it to kind of hit, like, with just a few queries, and I'm like, "Buddy, it's not gonna happen that way. You need to send out, like,
It's a numbers
100,"
game.
you know? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But if he does that, like, you'll get to read Exit Wounds, and it's like it's a piece of work, man, but we'll see.
dude, that title slaps. Like that's
Yeah.
really good. Exit wounds.
Right, and it's about well, it's kind of a paranormal fantasy story, but it starts out
Mm,
as a story of a soldier in, like, a contemporary fiction story of a soldier getting out of special forces, and so it's his story of getting out of the military, which
hmm
and then when you're thinking of him exiting the military and then the title Exit Wounds, like, together, top tier.
mm, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Oh my god, that's actually cool. I hope he sticks to with it, man. Or
yeah,
if he
yeah.
doesn't, switch to indie
Publish it? Yeah,
publishing and
right,
do it
yeah, yeah.
yourself, man.
Right, no, I agree, I agree. One day
Oh.
I'm gonna bully him into it somehow.
So we dug into this a little bit, and especially with you, like you being a father now, you have a day
Mhm,
job that you
mhm,
you have all these things that you have to take of that are responsibilities before you can get to the writing and the podcasting.
mm,
How do you balance the demands of your regular life while
mm,
still being able to fulfill the engagement that is required for podcasting and writing and continuing a platform?
poorly.
I disagree, sir. I see your face everywhere. What is your secret?
No, well, thank you. I don't know, man. Like, I never feel like I've got it figured out. That's number one. And I think the people, like, I do feel that nobody feels like they have it figured out, and the people that say that they do are either lying or not doing anything worth doing. Like I said, like, having the deadlines with the serialization is super helpful because it's like, okay, I got to do this thing. Like, it's Fridays I post a chapter, so it's got to be done by Friday, and Thursdays now I'm posting Well, Thursdays I'm posting to YouTube and to podcast platforms, the Nerdy Nebula podcast, but Tuesdays on our Patreon, you get the extended edition. So I'm kind of doing like 2 edits, because it's been crazy too. Uh, in that I initially figured that the, extendeds we'd probably chat for like an extra half hour to make it like a total of an hour and a half, but we've just been vibing, so most of them end up being like 2 hours, so it's a whole extra hour on the extended, yeah. Which is crazy that, like, essentially, like, every week I'm, like, recording or some of them I've pre-recorded, but, like, I have to have every week a 2-hour recording. I have to edit the 2-hour version. I have to edit the, like, hour version for YouTube and Patreon. I have to, like, put up a chapter, and then these are just those things, much less the working of the job, the making dinner, getting the kids up and doing breakfast, the hanging out with the kids, the weekends with the family, you know what I mean? I don't know. I would like genuinely like I'm all in on this, Like I want to turn this into a career. I would love to do that. So like other things have definitely fallen by the wayside. I used to play more video games and that would be like a way I would socialize with my brother too. And I'm sorry, Mike, but we haven't played anything in a while. Like I'd love to do that more, but it's just like, I'm too focused on these other things, which is, I'm that's a choice that I've made and I'm completely comfortable with it. But like that's kind of where we're at right now. So just trying, just trying to do it. But it's been good to kind of start to get some traction on all these things and feel and get some positive feedback. Like that's I'm a sucker for a compliment, man. Like, I would also do about anything for a laugh. So like I mean, you get the 2 together and, like, I'm just here to try to entertain folks, and so far people have been liking it and, like, seeing people responding to the podcast and the stories has been amazing, so
Yeah, it seems like you've really just figured out like what's a priority.
mm,
And I
mm.
hear you. I used to play so many more video games, and every once in a while I'll make an exception.
Right,
Like Final Fantasy Tactics came out with a remake not too long ago, and that's my favorite game of all time. So I was
sure,
like, all right, I'm gonna take a day off work and everything,
yeah,
and it's gonna be
yeah,
great. But for the most part, you just figure out what are the priorities, what's important to you, and
yeah,
especially like having kids, that
yeah,
really cuts through the middle of like all the
yeah,
fat and all the crap that you really
yeah,
didn't need to deal with before. But I think a lot of it is just taking on a little bit at a time and just slowly growing your capacity to do all these things. Because you didn't just jump out the gate and, you know what, full-time job, two kids, podcast, writing, all at the same time. Like you probably like picked up a little bit of it as you went, and then you kept finding like, oh, I can do a little more, I can do a little more, I can do a little more.
yeah, that's very true, that's very true. Yeah, things do, like, escalate in a nice way, and then I think, like, even the Nerdy Nebula podcast is that version of my interview stuff is new, but, or well, yeah, it's quite new at this point. So, as I'm doing a little bit more of it and doing the editing, just kind of getting better at it and getting faster at it and getting, that's been helpful. And also kind of understanding like what parts of it to prioritize and what not. I think that in general is a thing to do with all of it. I think yeah, I just saw a clip from your show where you were talking with Ro and he was talking about the editing where like you put in this much work and you get this much benefit and that feels really good and that's where you should spend your time, but when you get to the point where you're putting the same amount of work but you're only getting this much benefit, that's when you need to move on. Like
Yeah.
that was really I was like, man, Ro, like you know a thing or two. You
He
always
was
just
dropping
making
some
jokes and
bombs in that
right,
interview.
always just
Yeah.
yucking it up when you're with Mike, but like this Ro guy, right,
He knows things.
he knows things. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So speaking of like the Nerdy Nebula podcast, it is
Hmm.
very new.
Hmm.
Are you still doing your old format at the same time, or is this a replacement for that?
This is pretty much a replacement. I'll probably do like a couple like lives here and there, but really it's like it's intended for me to be a replacement. I do still have so the preview like I mean the Nerdy Nebula podcast has a YouTube channel and everything. It's Nerdy Nebula podcast on YouTube, easy to find. Um, but I do still have my channel that's Nicholas W. Fuller. I'd like to do more kind of like my friend Andrew Watson. He does videos on the Fool's Tale channel that he has, and he'll talk about like book hauls or different things. I have so many ideas for like videos that I'd like to go do on that channel that'll just like be me kind of talking on camera. Like, but we want to talk about serialization in the next episode. And I think that the fact that Dungeon Crawler Carl is serialized on Patreon, and also that he does something really cool where he has polls on his Patreon where you can actually choose some of the things that sort of happen in the story, and it makes a big impact on the story. But nobody really talks about that very much. And I'm like, we need to talk about this. It's so cool. I want to make a video on that. That's just one example. So that's what I hope to do with that channel more.
Okay. And again,
Yeah.
it just comes down to time. Like
Yeah.
there's so much we want to write and so much content we want to create. We just gotta figure out how
Right.
to fit it in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a tricky thing too with like the balancing question that you were asking earlier. Is like where does what's more important, like writing a book or making a video? And I don't have a good answer on that one. Like in my perfect world, I'd be doing like at least a chapter or two each week and doing like a podcast episode each week and doing a video each week. But I think if I was actually going to do all that, I would have to ditch the day job, and right now that one pays the bills. So like
That pesky day job is still
I
in the
know. I
way.
know, right? Yeah. So if you're out there and you want to help me get there,
Check out his Patreon
you're right,
and help him
exactly.
fulfill his dream.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's the thumbnail right there. Just you like that. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah,
No, but like Dungeon Crawler Carl started on Royal Road, I believe,
that's
before it got
right.
picked up. So it started out as a serialized story. And
Mhm.
God, yeah,
Mm,
we'll definitely get more into that. But
yeah.
I am kind of curious, what motivated this change in your original podcast to shift to the Nerdy Nebula podcast? What's the inspiration to that?
Great question. So, couple at least 2 or 3 things. Number 1, one fan of mine had been asking me to do podcast format for years. His name is Andy Cormack. He's this crazy awesome dude down in Australia. And like he'd been since the early days of doing the interviews, the live interviews, he was like, or not I mean, even when I was doing them only recorded, but putting them on YouTube, he was like, you got to do this in podcast format too. So that was always in the back of my radar, but it just for some reason felt daunting, even though it's not that big of a deal to do both. If you're doing one, it's easy to kind of do the other. Well, I guess if you're doing video, it's easy to do podcast too. Um, but uh, yeah. So there was that aspect. Then also, well, part of it was I wanted to have co-hosts for fun. Part of it was I figure like if I can develop co-hosts too, then if there's ever a point where like we have something scheduled and I'm feeling sick, maybe a co-host can jump in or something like of that nature, which had happened before. That there've been interviews that I had to cancel because I couldn't make it, which is a bummer. Like, um, but it is more fun to just have the co-host and chat and banter with the co-hosts. And the co-hosts that I ended up gathering are just so fun. So fun. Um so and then but also the last kind of piece of it too was honestly seeing um other podcasts that were really successful that I was seeing were having had in general more than one co-host, one more than one host. So I mean, obviously Adrian M. Gibson, our good friend, he's doing big things, right? And he's
Yeah.
got MJ and Greta as his co-host now. Um, but then also one that I've watched a little bit is Two to Ramble. Have you seen them?
Yeah. Toot to Ramble is great too.
Right? Yeah, they're great, and they've had phenomenal growth in their show, but I think so much of that works because it's like the balance of the 2 of them, and you get to see, like, kind of the interaction of the 2 co-hosts and them playing off each other. It also does help that they're live because you do get to bounce each other a little bit easier when you're
I
live
know.
versus
I'm so
online.
jealous of that.
Yeah, yeah. But then there's one more that I've seen also where, I mean, they've just crushed it, and their enthusiasm is infectious, but it's called, Fantasy Fangirls. That one's kind of not huge in like our little circle, but it's these 2 sisters and they dive right into romantasy books, right? It's so they started I think with I think their first one was Fourth Wing, and then they kind of jumped to Sarah J. Maas, but then as the other like Fourth Wing sequels were coming out, they would do those, and now they're onto like a different series, but like boy, those girls blew up. And it's easy to see why when you watch the show because they just like I said, they're so like infectiously enthusiastic about the books that they love, but then also they have like really cool what's the word, like little allusions, I guess, to like other works. Like they'll talk about, compare it to like Divergent or the Hunger Games series, that sort of thing. So it's neat, like the way that they're kind of talking to that audience, assuming that the audience like has read some other things that are, been very popular books over the last few decades. Um, but yeah, just sort of seeing like these other folks that are doing well and building an audience, which is kind of a goal. I mean, it's fun to do whether I'm talking to 5 people or 500, but like if I have the option, I'd rather talk to 500. So trying to see what they're doing and build it in the same way has been part of the calculus there.
No, that makes sense. Like I've definitely had the thought about like, this would be a lot easier if I wasn't doing it by myself.
Right.
Especially with like you're saying, like sometimes you have scheduling conflicts or sick
Yeah.
days, and it's just
Yeah.
like, well, at this point, I either suck it up or I cancel, and
Right.
I don't want to cancel.
Right.
So it can
Yeah.
be rough. So I definitely see the appeal of trying to do the co-hosts, but it's like when is the right time to pull people in? But I think you chose a good spot because like you've been doing your solo podcast for what, over 2 years? 3
I think
years?
that's right. No, yeah, but a little more than 2 years, I think. Yeah. So yeah, and it felt like a good time too. Yeah.
No, it sounds good because at that point you've built a rapport with people. You know who you bounce off well, and you've made those connections because you've been interacting with the community this whole time, which is the
Right.
point of the platform.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Plus, I like long format better too. I'm like,
Yeah.
there are some people that are killing it in like short format. Like I love Aaron Hall, his like
Mhm.
his caveman cooking stuff that he does, and he keeps throwing in his books with it too. It's so funny.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just not that good at it, and I don't know, but this longer format just feels more natural to me, and I like having the conversation. It does allow a little bit of nuance, like
Mhm.
I can talk to Christopher Rocchio and talk about religion, and like it's not going to be
So cool.
skewered. You know what I mean? Like someone's probably like if someone wants to take some things out of context, that could happen, but still, like, I mean, within the context, it all felt very reasonable. You know what I mean? um yeah, but no, it was yeah, I like the longer chat. Yeah, and I like having, again, this little group of my little weirdos that I've brought together.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm very excited to see what you guys do with the Nerdy Nebula podcast. Uh, it's cool stuff.
Yeah,
We are nearing the end of our time, so I did want to ask you one more question, though.
sure.
Uh, so, what advice would you give someone who is starting out in either podcasting or writing, or just trying to
Oof,
build that platform between the two, based on your own
interesting.
experience?
Okay. What like like they have the idea and like that's where they're at, or like what when we say
Uh,
that they're starting at, where are they at and starting
All
out?
right,
You know.
let's say Joe Schmo here has the idea that he wants to write. He wants to become an author someday, but he
Yeah.
wants to interact with the community. And he
Yeah.
heard that one of the best ways to do that is to do a podcast or a YouTube
Okay.
show.
Okay.
How should he get started?
All right, Mr. Schmo. Yeah, I will say, like, my first videos, like, don't worry about equipment so much. My first videos I recorded with my phone. I got a little app on my phone that made it work like a webcam, and I would just put it on like a little tripod and do that. So now I have kind of a fancy camera, but it is not necessary. Like equipment is not the thing that's going to make it better. Um, like conversations are going to make it better. If you want to be on YouTube, there's tons of stuff on YouTube that you can look at for um how to make better content for YouTube, and like how important the thumbnail is, which is hugely important, and then how important the first like 30 seconds are, because if you can maintain like if you have retention over the first 30 seconds, you're much more likely to maintain retention over the rest of the video. So those first 30 seconds are critical. But if you watch like a lot of and it's particularly like successful interviewers, like Colin and Samir, I've watched a few things and I've kind of studied their videos. They do, in the first 30 seconds, they'll do, this is so in the weeds, but yeah. You can, there's information that's out there that can help you get better. But I think the most important thing with the podcasting is make sure it's fun. you know? Uh, you're unlikely to, like, suddenly hit the lottery with the podcasting, you know? Um, so, like, but it is the most fun way, I think, to, like, on the regular, get to interact with people and get to meet people that you might never had it. Again, I talk with people from, like, Greece and from Portugal and from Egypt that, like, I've been to a few cons, and there's been some people from international, but they haven't had a chance to travel there, it's so cool to get to talk with all sorts of people doing this, and then also people that I'm a fan of. I've become a fan of Anthony Ryan through ZB Steele, one of my co-hosts, and we're gonna get to talk to him soon. That's pretty neat. Um, so there's that sort of thing. Yeah, but just have fun with it. Don't worry too much about the equipment. Get started. Don't overthink it. That's a big thing. If you're gonna do video, go ahead and do podcast too, which is not that complicated. Those are some, like, broad but advice. For the writing, I think, like, my key thing would be, don't do it in a vacuum. Like, think of an ideal reader, right? Maybe, like, it's a friend, or again, in my instance, my ideal reader is actually my cousin. And I think, like, as I'm writing, I think, what are the things that he's gonna like? What are the and he's a great ideal reader too, because that man, like, is constantly consuming books, and he does have a taste, so I can kind of tailor it to his taste. And I know that I'll have him as a reader, but then also other people that, like, have this similar taste. So there's that, and then find other, friends that join, like, if you're going to be the podcasting, you're going to be getting into the community, find the, members of the community, and just, again, like, figure out how to have fun with it all. Make sure that, like, that's number one, because it's all going to be a long slog, and it better be fun along the way.
No, that's a good advice to give someone who is starting out. Mr. Schmo is now much
Yeah.
better off.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Please have fun, Mr. Schmo. Yeah.
Good luck, Mr. Schmo. But Nicholas, where can people find you? Where can they find your now book out, your novella?
Right, ba-bam. Yeah. So this bad boy in print, and you can get it signed. It's exclusive on my website. You can check out, my website is nicholaswfuller.com. I've got links to all my socials and everything there, and the YouTube channels. You can find Nerdy Nebula podcast either on YouTube or wherever you're listening to podcasts. My Patreon you can find at nicholaswfuller.com. So that's a good place to check it all out. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have all that linked down below, so easy to find. Go check out Nicholas. He's an awesome dude. Great podcast, great book. Nicholas, thank you so much for coming onto the show, and people, make sure to come back next week, because we're going to have him right back on, as we're going to be talking about serialized storytelling.
Awesome. Thanks.
See you, folks.